Alright there folks, welcome to a very wet fishing adventures, and the reason that I'm out today in this drizzly, horrible, manky weather is to quickly cover watercraft, but on rivers. Okay, it's a question that's been asked in various different ways a few times over the last few weeks, and I thought, while I'm doing these kind of like mini series of videos, doing one a day, I'd basically come and show you the River Ouse near where I live. I've not travelled too far, to be fair, and just show you some of the features that are on pretty much every river up and down the country, just so you know roughly where to start your session, maybe where to target fish that you've not thought of before. And now you may be thinking, why are you doing it in the rain? Well, there's two reasons for that. It rained yesterday as well, and today was filming day, and it's rained again, so I've got no choice. But the really good thing is, because it's been raining so much, the river's actually in flood, and this is a perfect opportunity to show you things like eddies and the creases, because when the river comes up, they're highlighted so much more, and it just makes it so much easier for them to be spotted on camera, basically. So I'm going to stop waffling, and I'm going to basically show you, and where we are now, okay, is an area just near Clifton Ings, and basically the river comes from up there, it comes round one bend, around another shallow bend, and then it gets down into that corner, and then it basically turns 90 degrees and heads into the city centre. Okay, so just let me spin this camera around, and I'm going to highlight 2 or 3 areas that are really worth looking at, especially now that the river is in flood. Okay, right then, so the first area that I want to show you is that channel there. Okay, and that far edge is where the main flow comes, because the water's come down and it's now channeled onto that far bank, getting ready to hit and go back into town. So what I'm going to do is just zoom in onto the crease in the river. Okay, where are we? Yeah, see there, look, where are we? There, that bit there is the main flow, and that is hugging that far bank, and as we come slowly this way towards us, it gets a little bit slacker and a little bit slacker, and that area there from where my finger is down is slack water. So all this area here is just off the main flow, and there's a crease there. Now if I pull back a bit more, you'll see there's that tree there, and that kind of starts off with the slack water, and all this area here is slack water. But if I spin the camera around just a little bit more, you'll be able to see that when we get round there and zoom in into that bit just here, you see where it's kind of boiling on the surface there. You've got your main flow out there, that is still on that far bank, but this bit area here where it's boiling, that is actually at the end of an eddy, and that is forcing all the water back into this basin here, basically. So you've got your main flow, you've got a little crease, okay, you've got an area of slack water, and then because of the eddy, it's forcing the other water all the way around this edge, so it's that bit is actually looking like it's going against the flow, and those areas are what you want to be looking for in your river. Right then, so that area there, just on that bend, is one area that you want to be looking at. Look at where the flow is going, and then look for the areas of slack water, particularly when the river is up. The fish are going to want to find those areas of shelter. Okay, so they're going to be shoaling up in this little area here, and I've been down here sometimes when it's been really flooded, and just flicked a little waggler out, and I've had roach and bream out, pretty much a fish a chuck, believe it or not, just by looking for those slack water areas. Now there's other features on the river that are going to be more highlighted as well, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk a little bit further downstream and just show you another couple of areas that you would want to be looking at, and especially looking for features and stuff that are under the water that are going to highlight where you've got snags or possibly big weed beds and stuff like that. Hopefully I'll be able to point out a couple of them, but if not, that I'm going to show you some more places where there's going to be slack water in floods where you need to be targeting to find these fish, so stick around. Right then folks, so I've just stopped at this bit because it is like a typical wider stretch of river, okay, and it's going into the town centre a bit further downstream there, just around another very, very shallow bend. And it looks pretty featureless, to be fair. If you're new to rivers, it can be quite, oh, where do I go? Where shall I cast? What do I need to look for type thing. Now, if you can see on this inside hedge, just behind my shoulder there, look, you've got those overhanging trees, okay? Anywhere where there's cover, there's going to be fish more than likely, okay? So if you're in a position where you can trot a stick float down, that'd be a great little line to use. Same on the far bank as well, okay? There is an overhanging tree. See if I can spin that round a tad. Yep, there, look, that, where are we? This tree there, that is overhanging. If you've got a feeder chuck, it's also worth just trying to chuck a feeder over there as well, because cover, fish love cover, basically. Now, apart from those two areas, it looks pretty featureless, to be honest, doesn't it? It's just your bog standard wide river. Okay, it's got generally slow to medium-ish type flow, depending on the water level and condition. At the moment, it's probably flowing, it is quite a slow flowing river anyway, because of the gradient of it going down through the city centre. But there's still areas that we can target and look for. And if I can, I'm just going to try and zoom in, although there's tons of reflection on the water. But just over on the far bank, about a third of the way back towards us, there's a definite little crease in the river. And I just want to try and highlight that for you, because that is where the main flow is. Okay, it's like I said before, up on the bit up there, the main flow when it's in flood isn't necessarily a place where the fish are going to hang out. Don't get me wrong, they will be there, because that's where the main area of the food is going to come down in that main current. But they are going to hang back into the slower water. Okay, and if you can find those creases, they're always a good place to start. So if you're fishing a feeder, fish it just out of the main flow into that area of slower water. I mean, it could be that they're not there at all and you would need to cast it into that main flow, but it's always a good place to start, okay? So those are the things that you're looking for. I'm going to spin the camera around now in a second, and hopefully I'll be able to highlight that for you, but I don't think I'm going to be able to be honest, but fingers crossed. You see that in there? Just there, where those bubbles are going down, yeah? That area there is your main flow. And like I said up on the other one earlier, you've got that area of main flow just on that far bank, okay? It's about a third away from that far bank, and then as you get closer to this bank, it tends to get a little bit slower. And that crease stays basically there all the way down into the city centre. And those are the areas that you need to be looking for. So yeah, I hope that helps. I hope that shows up properly on camera. But it's things like that you need to just pay attention to, and then you can start formulating a game plan as to where you're going to attack, how you're going to feed it and stuff like that. So I mean, on certain days when it's a bit lower, you could cast a waggler over there, do you know what I mean, and just fish just beyond that crease with a waggler and get a fish that way, or a feeder. And as I said, you've always got that inside line just near those trees there, and you can trot a stick float down, or lob a tiny little feeder in there as well, because it's like anything, wherever you're fishing, if there's cover or features, there'll be fish, okay? Now, not all the features are going to be obvious, like reed beds or lilies on the surface or overhanging trees. And hopefully, because we're in flood, when I get to Scarborough Bridge down below, I'll be able to show you some of the underwater features that we need to look for. And this is a really good thing to do in flooded rivers, is go down and just watch how the water flows, because that'll give you so many clues as to what is going on under the surface. Okay, so let's carry on. Right then folks, so we've just stopped on Scarborough Bridge. I'm above the river, and it's looking really nice actually for what I want to show you in this little bit, which is just things to look out for that would denote that there's going to be snags somewhere in that swim. You know, when you're looking at a river and you're umming and ahhing about where to cast that stick float down or whatever, and in the middle of your potential swim, there's some water boiling. It's just lifting up slightly and boiling, and you know that there's something going on under the water. If you've not seen it before, I'm going to show you it in just a second, but it's things like that you need to look out for that are going to tell you where the snags are. And again, on a flooded river, it's really exaggerated, so they're a lot easier to spot. Some of the lower rivers that aren't as deep as this, it's pretty obvious where they are, because the water will hit the big boulder or whatever it is, and it'll boil up over the top and then cascade down the other side, and it's the downstream side that will give you a clue as to where that snag is. And then depending on the flow rate, it depends how far up the swim that snag is. Okay, but I'm going to quickly show you those right now. Yeah, those boils there, and just see them, that little area there where it's boiling up and it's looking flat and calm, there is a big snag under there. Okay, and it's just little bits like that are going to give it away for you. And if I zoom back out and point that camera straight down, as we go past this little section here, you can see tons of little eddy currents. They're the ones that are spiralling back on themselves like that, and that's because the flow's coming down, it's catching the side of the bridge and it's causing it to cascade. And what will happen is it sits in this area here, and that is a massive eddy current in there. Okay, and again, that is a massive area of slack water where the fish are going to be. And again, I've come down, and on days like this, I mean, even further upstream, there were fish topping all over the place, and it wouldn't surprise me if we stayed here for a bit of time that there'd be some bleak or roach just topping in that area of the eddy, just out of the main flow. And again, the other thing that you need to be doing and concentrating on, especially on the rivers if you can, is having a bit of a plumb up and just see how deep it is, because this section down here, it starts off on the bank that I'm facing, and it goes from about 6 foot down to 12 foot. Then there's a middle channel, and then the far side it drops away to oblivion. It's well over 12 foot deep, getting on for 16 or 18 foot close to that far bank, and that's purely because it's used as a boating channel. Back in the olden days, when they used to bring the boats up and unload them here, there was a massive channel carved out, and that is the reason why, apparently. But yeah, just things like that you need to look out for, things that maybe aren't obvious, but things that you need to look out for, especially if you're just new to the rivers. Areas to look for, places to maybe just think about more before you start chucking your feeder in and stuff. It'll just make you that little bit more productive and stuff. So I really hope that this has helped. If you're still a bit unsure, or you want me to go and do it on a different river, what I'm going to do is try and do it on an actual session. And what I'll do is, while I'm getting set up, I'll actually talk you through the swim and why I'm going to fish in those areas of that swim, and hopefully we'll get some fish out. I've still got another probably a week, maybe a little bit sooner on this thumb before I feel confident enough to go out fishing. But in the meantime, if there's anything else you want me to cover, leave a comment below, and I will hopefully see you all soon. Cheers.